Long before the first human eyes beheld the lands we now call North America, there existed a realm of astonishing beauty and immense power. A world sculpted by glaciers and rivers, mountains carved by slow, patient forces of ice and stone, and plains that stretched beyond the horizon, dotted with forests so vast and deep that sunlight struggled to reach the ground. This was a land untouched by cities or roads, a land ruled not by man, but by the giants that walked upon it, creatures of unimaginable size and strength, whose very presence shaped the world itself. These were the first giants of America, creatures that defy imagination yet once roamed this continent in numbers and diversity that astound modern science. Among them, the mammoths, the colossal cousins of modern elephants, moved in disciplined herds across endless grasslands, their tusks curving like the crescent moon. Each step left a mark upon the earth, a footprint pressed deep into soft soil or frozen mud, a silent testimony of life in a world far older than any city, any nation, any history recorded by man. To witness them was to confront the enormity of life itself. Their thick fur rippled in the wind, their breaths misting in the icy morning air. Mothers guided their young with tender care, while the older bulls tested each other in battles that were both ritual and survival. Predators observed from afar, weighing every step. Every weakness, for in this world, survival was both brutal and beautiful. Beyond the plains, the forests thrived. Towering conifers and deciduous giants provided sanctuary for creatures equally formidable. Ground sloths, some as tall as a two-story building, reached for the highest branches, pulling down entire trees to feed. Their immense claws left marks in bark and earth, evidence of a life lived in constant interaction with their environment. Saber-toothed cats, elegant and deadly, crept in the shadows. Their canines, long as daggers, glistened in dappled sunlight as they stalked unsuspecting prey, a reminder that even the mightiest herbivores had to remain vigilant. Rivers ran like veins across this ancient land. They were lifelines, nourishing vast ecosystems, reflecting sunlight in sheets of liquid fire. Beavers shaped these waterways, constructing dams that created ponds and wetlands. The delicate balance of life depended on these interconnected systems. A fallen tree might provide a feast for one, while sheltering another from the predators lurking nearby. Every creature, no matter how massive or small, was part of an intricate web, a network of survival that had evolved over millions of years. Seasons dictated the rhythm of life. Winters were harsh and unyielding, sweeping across the continent with ice and snow. Mammoths huddled together for warmth, their breath steaming in the frozen air. Rivers froze, forests bent under heavy snow, and food became scarce. Yet, life persisted. Spring brought renewal. Grasslands turned green, rivers swelled with melting ice, and the forests echoed with the calls of creatures emerging from the cold. Life was cyclical, relentless, beautiful. Among these giants, diversity was staggering. Mastodons, distant relatives of the mammoth, roamed in smaller, more agile herds. They navigated forests with an ease that belied their size, feeding on shrubs and trees, shaping the landscape as they moved. Giant bison thundered across prairies in immense herds, their hooves stirring dust clouds that blotted out the sun. Dire wolves prowled in packs. Intelligent and coordinated, while the elusive short-faced bear, larger than any grizzly we know today, reigned supreme in forests and mountains alike. Every creature had a role, every life a purpose in the fragile balance of this frozen kingdom. Volcanoes and earthquakes added drama to the landscape, reminding all who lived here of the earth's raw, untamed power. Ash clouds darkened the sky, rivers were diverted, forests burned and regrew. These giants had adapted to an unpredictable world, evolving traits that allowed them to survive extremes of climate and sudden natural catastrophes. They were resilient, yet not invincible. As the millennia passed, the Earth began to change. Ice sheets, enormous and relentless, crept southward, reshaping valleys, carving canyons, and sculpting mountains. Glacial meltwater flooded lowlands, creating lakes that would later disappear, leaving only sediment and stone to hint at their existence. Vegetation shifted with the climate. What was once open grassland became forested. Forests turned to tundra. The giants adapted, moving with the land, seeking food, seeking safety. Their migration routes, honed over generations, became lifelines, yet, change brought vulnerability. The delicate equilibrium that had governed life for millions of years began to unravel. Ice sheets receded, then advanced, then receded again. Temperatures fluctuated wildly. Some species flourished briefly, only to vanish suddenly when conditions shifted beyond their tolerance. Others held on stubbornly, but the pressures grew, and then, humans arrived. First quietly, first in small numbers, their presence barely registered by the giants. But over time, humans became a force that could not be ignored. They hunted with tools that were small yet lethal, using strategy, intelligence, and endurance to bring down creatures far larger than themselves. They lit fires that altered landscapes, cut pathways through forests, and competed for the same resources. Slowly, imperceptibly, the balance of this frozen kingdom shifted. The last mammoths moved in smaller herds. Their numbers dwindling. Saber-toothed cats, once apex predators, became rarer, their prey disappearing or adapting to new pressures. The Ice Age world that had nurtured these giants for millennia was changing too rapidly, leaving them unable to adapt fast enough. Extinction crept silently, leaving empty plains where life once thundered, silent forests where predators once roamed, and rivers flowing past a world that no longer echoed with the cries of giants. Yet, even in extinction, these creatures left a legacy. Their bones, scattered across the land, became monuments to survival and resilience. Fossils tell their stories, frozen in stone and ice, awaiting discovery by scientists centuries later. Each skeleton reveals the grandeur of life, the enormity of these beings, and the profound connection they had with the earth. Paleontologists, excavating slowly, carefully, piece together entire ecosystems, uncovering insights not just into anatomy, but behavior, diet, social structures, and the intricate dance of life and death that defined this ancient world. Imagine walking through a forest millions of years ago. The ground trembles beneath your feet, not from earthquakes, but from the passing of mammoths and bison. Trees sway as enormous sloths pull down branches. Predators pause, ears pricked, sensing your presence. Rivers glisten under sunlight filtered through dense canopies, reflecting glimpses of life that seem mythic yet real. Every step is an encounter with grandeur, every sound a note in the symphony of survival. The earth itself remembers. Valleys carved by ice sheets, lakes formed from glacial melt, and fossils preserved in sediment all testify to the era of giants. Even today, we trace their paths, imagine their lives, and feel the echo of their existence in landscapes that have endured through millennia. The story of these giants is not simply one of size or strength, but of adaptation and interaction. They shaped the land even as the land shaped them. Migration patterns influenced vegetation. Predators regulated populations, preventing overgrazing and maintaining ecological balance. Each extinction, each survival, left ripples through the ecosystem, a subtle reminder of the fragility and interconnectedness of life. We can learn much from them. Their rise and fall offer lessons about resilience, adaptation, and the consequences of environmental change. They were magnificent, yet their story reminds us that no matter how powerful a species may seem, it is bound to the Earth's rhythms and limitations. Climate, terrain, and unforeseen events can alter existence irrevocably. The first giants of America were witnesses to a world that changed slowly, patiently, and sometimes violently. They bore silent witness to ice ages and volcanic eruptions, to the rise of forests and the retreat of glaciers. They thrived, they struggled, and they ultimately vanished. Yet, in their disappearance, they left a legacy that speaks to the power and fragility of life, to the majesty of creatures who lived in harmony and conflict with the natural world, and to a time when the earth was wilder, freer, and more breathtaking than we can easily imagine. As we uncover their bones, study their habitats, and reconstruct their lives, we are reminded of something profound, that the world is older, larger, and more complex than any one species, any one civilization, could comprehend. The echoes of these giants persist in the wind over the plains, the flow of rivers, and the quiet hush of forests. Their footprints, etched in stone, tell stories of survival, courage, and the awe-inspiring scale of life itself. We remember the mammoths, the mastodons, the saber-toothed cats, the giant sloths, the dire wolves, and countless other creatures that once ruled this land. We remember their triumphs and their struggles, their lives intertwined with ice, fire, water, and earth. And though they are gone, they are not lost. They live on in our imagination, in our studies, in our reverence for the natural world, and in the silent testimony of the earth itself. The frozen kingdoms of America's first giants were vast, dangerous, and beautiful. They existed on a scale that challenges modern understanding, yet they were part of the same earth that we inhabit today. Their rise and fall, their lives and deaths, are reminders that life is fleeting, precious, and extraordinary. And when we pause to listen to the winds over the plains, when we trace the paths of rivers and examine the bones buried in the soil, we can still hear the distant thunder of giant footsteps, a whisper of a time when the world was ruled not by humans, but by creatures of immense power and majesty. This is the story of resilience, of life in its most extraordinary